More than 4.5 million acres of America have already burned this year, 42,000 separate fires. And here is the part that should stop everyone cold. The peak of wildfire season has not even started yet. This is the 2026 U.S. wildfire season, already running at a pace far above anything normal, months before it is supposed to be at its worst. And this is why the people who fight these fires are bracing for what comes next. Start with the scale, because the numbers are hard to believe. As of late July, 42,651 wildfires have burned across the United States. Together, they have scorched more than 4.5 million acres, an area larger than the entire state of Connecticut turned to ash. And that is not just a big year, it is a broken one. The season is running at about 130% of the 10-year average number of fires and 146% of the average acres burned. Nearly half, again more land than a normal year, with the most dangerous months still ahead. Look at how fast it got here. Back in late May, the country had seen around 29,000 fires and about 2.3 million acres burned. In the 2 months since, that number nearly doubled. The fires did not slow down as summer arrived. They accelerated. And Utah has been hit as hard as anywhere. In mid-July, the Cottonwood Fire tore through Fish Lake National Forest, one of many blazes turning the West's forests into fuel. A fire in conditions like these is not something crews can simply put out. When the vegetation is this dry and the wind is up, a wildfire stops behaving like a campfire and starts behaving like a flood, hurling burning embers a mile ahead of itself, leaping highways and rivers and generating its own violent weather. Firefighters do not extinguish a blaze like that. They try to steer it, defend the homes they can, and wait for the wind to drop. The drier the season, the more often steering it is the only option left. So why is 2026 burning like this? The answer is written in the weather of the months before a single fire started. Much of the western United States just came through one of the warmest winters ever recorded. A warm winter is not a gift here. It is a warning. Warm winters mean thin snowpack, and thin snowpack means the mountains melt out early. The soil dries sooner and the forests are parched and ready to burn weeks ahead of schedule. On top of that, a super El Niño weather pattern has been pushing drier, hotter air across the country. And by the end of July, at least 38% of the United States, nearly half of the lower 48 states, was locked in drought. Warm winter, early melt, deep drought, hot dry wind. Every ingredient a record fire season needs, all loaded at once before summer even peaked. That combination is grinding down the people who fight these fires. Crews, aircraft, and budgets are finite. And when dozens of large fires burn across multiple states at the same moment, there is no reserve left to send. Teams that would normally rotate out and rest are instead thrown from one fire straight to the next month after month. A record number of fires does not only burn more land, it burns out the very system built to stop them, and it does it early, long before the hardest part of the year. And America already knows what a fire season like this can cost, because the wounds from the last one are still open. In January of 2025, wildfires tore through Los Angeles and destroyed 6,571 homes. More than a year later, by February of 2026, only 13 of them had been rebuilt. 13! That is the part the acreage numbers never show. That long after the flames are gone, thousands of families are still not home, still waiting, still living inside a disaster that the news moved on from. That is what 4.5 million acres really means, multiplied across the country. It is not only an American emergency either. Just across the border, more than 800 fires have been burning in Ontario, Canada, forcing thousands to flee. In mid-July, the Namegusi-Sagagun First Nation had to be evacuated by boat, the only way out, before fire reached the community. And the smoke from those Canadian fires does not respect the border. It drifts south in vast gray rivers, hazing the skies over American cities hundreds of miles away, turning the sun orange over places that never saw a single flame. And that smoke is not just an eyesore, it is a genuine health emergency. Wildfire smoke carries fine particles deep into the lungs, and on the worst days it pushes air quality into dangerous territory for millions of people who live nowhere near a fire. The elderly, children, and anyone with asthma or a heart condition are hit hardest. In a record fire year, the number of people harmed by the air is far, far larger than the number who ever see a flame. Here is the hard truth the firefighters are staring at. A season that has already burned 4.5 million acres at 146% of normal has done all of that in the run-up, before the hottest, driest, most dangerous stretch of the year. Peak wildfire season in the West typically arrives in late summer and autumn, when the fuels are at their driest and the winds are at their worst. 2026 has spent its entire preseason shattering averages. What that peak now lands on is not a fresh landscape, but one already scorched, already stretched, with firefighting crews and budgets already worn thin from months of nonstop battle. And peak season brings its own specific terror: the winds. In autumn, the West's infamous dry winds, The Santa Anas of Southern California, the Diablo winds of the north, come roaring down off the mountains. And it is these winds that turn a single spark into a firestorm in minutes. The fastest and most destructive fires in recent American memory were nearly all wind-driven autumn fires. That is, the season 2026 is now walking into, already scorched, already in drought, its firefighters already exhausted, and about to meet the wind. For more disaster reports built on the real numbers and the real science without the exaggeration, subscribe. And never miss the next one. Because the fires of 2026 are not a forecast or a warning of something coming. 4.5 million acres are already gone. 42,000 fires have already burned. And on a continent primed by a warm winter, a deep drought, and a super El Niño, the season that is supposed to be the worst part is the part that has not arrived yet.